Mark, armed with weapons, entered the office of the company's executives. Seizing the moment when the executive was assigning tasks, he secretly pulled the trigger under the desk. With the ultrasound entering the man's body, the executive's stomach began to churn, and he felt the imminent urge to use the restroom. In a hurry, he excused himself and rushed into the toilet. Meanwhile, Mark took advantage of this interval to reach the executive's computer and copy the files onto a USB drive. However, due to the large size of the files, the copying process was slow. Just as the executive was about to return from the restroom and open the office door, Mark turned the ultrasound power to the maximum. The executive rushed back into the toilet once again. Though Mark temporarily secured safety, the earplug's battery was depleted due to the recent high usage, and Mark felt a sense of relief. Luckily, the USB copying process was almost complete. In the moment the executive opened the door, Mark swiftly returned to his seat. Although the copying was finished, a more significant problem awaited him leaving the company. Every employee had to undergo a full-body security check when leaving, and the consequences would be dire if prohibited items were detected. Soon, it was Mark's turn on the inspection platform. After a short time, a warning alarm suddenly sounded from the computer, and a large number of police officers rushed out from behind. They arrested the executive, who looked bewildered and had no chance to explain, immediately covering his head with a hood. Everything was Mark's doing. His goal was to frame the executive and take his position. The next day, after a vote at headquarters, Mark was temporarily appointed to fill the vacant position. Everything went according to his plan. After exchanging glances with new colleagues, Mark sat at his desk, took out a childhood friend's photo, and then systematically checked each female employee in the company's surveillance system. Soon, a screen displayed a woman highly matching the photo. To Mark's surprise, the once pure and innocent lady from 6 years ago was now extravagantly appearing in high-end establishments. Despite the probability being only 73%, Mark immediately recognized her distinctive hairstyle. On the other side, the security bureau interrogated the former executive and found no signs of betrayal. The only suspicious point was that Mark had visited his office. The security bureau promptly arrived at Mark's office for questioning. Fortunately, Mark had already devised a countermeasure. He attached a jammer under the table in the interrogation room. With electromagnetic interference, he shifted the time of his visit to the executive's office one day earlier. The man did not notice any abnormalities. After the interrogation, to avoid security check at the entrance, Mark left the jammer under the table. However, when he returned the next day to retrieve it, he found that the jammer had already been intercepted. At that moment, Tom from the security department walked in. From his expression, it was evident that he had obtained some leverage. Thinking it was about the discovered jammer, Mark sat heavily in his chair, uncertain about what to do next. Fortunately, Tom didn't pull out the jammer from his pocket but instead revealed the ultrasound gun that Mark had discarded earlier in the office. Mark finally breathed a sigh of relief. Although Tom had ample reason to suspect Mark of using weapons to frame his superior, lacking substantial evidence, he couldn't carry out an arrest.